offer a few opening remarks. And Jill has been a huge advocate for WAI and for this cause. She consulted with us and advised us. And so we're really happy that she could join us. Also want to give a quick shout out. We have Senator Mike Gabbard over here as well. And we have Representative Luke Ebslin over here in the back. Yes. Yeah. So thank you all for joining us. And now we'll kick it over to Jill.
Thank you so much, Stu, for allowing me to be here. Hello, Representative Ebslin. Hello, Mike, Senator Gabbard. Great to see you, but not see you. But thank you for also being such amazing champions for the cause. You know, I told Stu when I talked to him that I wanted to at least be there virtually to really cheer you on and to echo how important the work that you do is. I've been working on this since the days of the pandemic with the WAI initiative and looking at ways that we could elevate this, one for green jobs, but also to do the right thing with our cesspools. And really, when we think about where we are right now to meet this moment, while sadly we are at a point where we have just experienced devastation and loss and tragedy, I have been talking to folks about the what next. And oh, can't see me. I'm sorry. I don't think I'm off video, but hopefully you can hear me. So I have been talking to folks about, you know, what we need to look forward to. How can we rebuild back better, stronger, more resilient? And I do feel that when we take a look at cesspool conversions, the 83,000 cesspools that we have out there right now, the billions of dollars that it will cost, you know, quite frankly, we can do better by looking at ways to really create decentralized systems that ultimately will help us create, you know, reuse water that can help us with irrigation. It can help us with fire suppression, so many other beneficial uses that I wish we had had in place prior to the deadly fires that we experienced on August 8th. And so I just really wanted to make sure that I could be online to really help you kick off this conversation and let you know that you've got an advocate, a friend, and a partner here in Washington, D.C. Because as far as I'm concerned, there are so many pluses when we take a look at the work that you are doing to create meaningful jobs, to really help us look at green belts and irrigation and water that can be used to fight fires that ultimately will sadly happen again. But how can we keep it away from homes? How can we keep it away from people, from the destruction that we have seen? And quite frankly, even beyond that, how can we make sure that we are protecting our coral reef system? And so everything that you are doing really, truly is about how we protect our resources, how we protect people going forward. And I see huge opportunities as you start to look forward into the next legislative session. As I've mentioned, you've got great advocates right there amongst you that have been champions for many, many years and who I think will help to elevate this to an even higher level when we start the legislative work next January. And I can tell you here in Congress, just talking about other opportunities that we have to support initiatives like this in Congress. We are facing, unfortunately, right now, the threat of a shutdown. I may not be able to get home this weekend, which is very sad for me, but I can assure you we are continuing to fight to make sure that government does not shut down. We cannot slow the pace of decisions and support coming to our islands. But most importantly, too, that any continuing resolution has to include funding for disaster relief, has to make sure that we support our agencies and our departments in a way that they are able to continue to do good work side by side, all of you. So, you know, I'm not sure if anyone can see me. I know there was some texts in the chat. Hopefully you've been able to hear me. But again, really my presence here and participation and even this virtual setting was just to mahalo you for all that you do. And again, to let you know that you have a strong partner in myself, an advocate in myself here in Congress. And I look forward to working with you in every which way possible now and going forward into the future. So thank you, Stuart, for letting me join you. Thank you to all the wonderful advocates that I know are on the screen, but I can't see you at this particular moment. And I look forward to the good work we will do together. So mahalo, everyone.
Just to give you an overview of the agenda today, we're going to give you a brief presentation, kind of an overview of what's happening in Hawaii, recent developments. Rep. Takuta talked about some of those issues, and there's some very exciting things that are developing about using treated wastewater for fire prevention. And we've got a plan and a project moving forward in Maalaea to do exactly that. We've been working on that for 3 years. And then we also have, some really exciting presentations by our providers here, who we have, brought here and been working with for years to make happen. Okay, so we're going to have some presentations. This year, we're pairing them with specific pilot projects. So we're showing you this is how much progress we've made from year to year, going from, just talking about technologies that are appropriate for Hawaii, that are going to benefit us, but also like specific projects where we can make them work. Our keynote today, we're very excited about is Dr. Greg Asner. Just so you know what's in front of you, we gave everybody a copy of Hawaii Business Magazine. I wrote an article that just came out last week about a recent report that was a big publication in Nature. And this is it's hot off the press, as it were. And his study just came out literally 2 weeks before. And it's about the long-term effects of nutrient loading, but in our case, specifically from wastewater, cesspools, injection wells, septic systems, on the development of coral reefs. So brand new science, brand new information that's coming out. And it really reminds us why we do what we do, what's at stake here. And we're talking about the future of our coral reefs. Then we're going to have some breakouts. And once we have our keynote, once Greg talks, we're going to go upstairs on the 7th floor, one of the best views of the city. And we've got food from Pig and the Lady and drinks, and we want you all to come up and join us there. All right, so there are bathrooms down the hall and right down the hall and on the other parallel hallway. The other thing is we have the tech providers in each of the 4 rooms. They have raffle tickets. Patagonia donated some really cool swag. So once you go in and talk to them, get a business card brochure, get a raffle ticket, and then we will draw from all 4 of those rooms at the end of the evening, 4 separate raffle prizes. So yes, you get a different ticket from each room. And watch out for this guy, because he was eyeing the unmanned raffle tickets there. So we got eyes on you, James. Yes. All right. So this is who we are. And thanks for bearing with us. This is the first time we've held it in ASB, and we want to thank them for hosting us. But state-of-the-art technology, and of course it doesn't work when after rehearsals and such. We have a big, bold mission, and it's for a small startup nonprofit. We are trying to do a lot, but it's because so much needs to be done. And we really want to restore our watersheds. And WAI, we are well named because we are about protecting water quality, and that is our main focus, and nearshore ecosystems. And so we wanted to bring in more affordable, more efficient technologies that are better for the environment, and help homeowners and communities with this process of conversion. And so you can see we have our pillars at the bottom here. You can't do what needs to be done in the state without each of these pillars. When you have innovative technology, you have to have pilot projects to show them, get them in the ground. Financial resources is probably our biggest challenge. Policy and advocacy, outreach and education, we're going to be talking more about those things as we go on. And couldn't do what I do and what we do without this amazing team. So maybe as I call out your name, if you could just raise your hand. We have Christina as our water quality specialist. We have Gabby Zimmer as our program manager and heading up Work for Water, with Courtney in the back there monitoring our Zoom. And then we have Monet, our newest hire, in the corner over here. And then we have Michelle, who is the orchestrated and done a great job putting all this together right over here. And then we have my partner, John Anner. He's a co-partner, and he's on business call right now with a donor. So very important work being done in one of the side rooms. And let's hope that's successful. So we're going to talk about the cesspool problem in Hawaii. Most of you have seen this. What we have experienced and what we've seen in places like Hawaii Paradise Park on the Big Island, which has the most cesspools in the entire state concentrated. 50% of the drinking wells that were sampled, the private drinking wells, don't want to start a panic, but the private drinking wells had fecal indicator bacteria. So this is what we're talking about. It affects even water quality. So we need to be very careful that we're not, polluting our aquifer. And I also want to thank Sina Pruder for being here today, head of the wastewater branch for Hawaii, and Ramsey Mansour, who's head of the Department of Environmental Management, yes, on the Big Island in Hawaii County. So we're just going to give a quick overview. I'll let Christina do this, of the priority areas, the maps, so you know how pervasive this problem is.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm just going to talk you through really quickly the cesspool ranking system on the 4 main islands. So I'll just show these different maps, and on each map you can see the outline of the island, and all of these dots of different colors indicate where cesspools are located. Priority 1 is red, priority 2 is orange, and priority 3 is yellow. And these priority areas were determined based on a University of Hawaii study that included 14 different parameters, things like environmental parameters, public use parameters, weather, all kinds of different factors that went into this analysis. So you can see on Oahu, North Shore, Waimanalo on the southeast, and Waianae have some of the highest risk cesspool areas. And interestingly, even right here in Honolulu, where there's a sewer system, we have plenty of cesspools that still need to be converted. And then in Kauai, there's about 14,300 cesspools, and you can see they're all around the island, more rural area. And on the west side, Keikaha, Waimea, Wailua, Ha'ena, and Hanalei are the highest ranked in Kauai. In Hawaii Island, Pu'oko, which some of you work directly in Pu'oko. Many of you have heard about the sewage pollution issues in Pu'oko. Those cesspools are ranked really highly. Also in Kailua Kona, and most of the Big Island is ranked as priority 3, but it's also something to keep in mind that a lot of these cesspools are located really close to the coast and on volcanic rocks. So even if they're ranked as priority 3 here, that doesn't mean they're not impacting the marine environment. So it's important to consider that as well, that, just based on the averaging, some really impactful and polluting cesspools might come out as priority 3. And then Maui priority areas, you can see along West and South Maui is where most of the highest rated or highest priority cesspools are located. Also, we don't want to forget about Molokai. So Molokai wasn't included in the analysis because it didn't have the same amount of data available to average out the cesspool priority and hazard risk. But just so you can see, these are where all the cesspools are located on Molokai. And you can imagine that most of those cesspools along the southern area that are really close to the water are going to have a high impact. So as we're moving forward in our meeting today, I just wanted to frame the conversation a little bit around the challenges and opportunities of wastewater management in Hawaii. So on the challenges side, there's a lot of things to consider. There's environmental harm being done by cesspools and in some areas septic systems, as well as aging sewer infrastructure. So there's a lot to consider. The pollution from these systems can cause human health risks from encountering pathogens in the nearshore water or in drinking water in some cases. There's also low conversion rates currently, at least compared to our state mandate to convert all cesspools by 2050. So currently there's maybe 300 or so cesspools being converted per year, but in order to meet that mandate, that's going to have to increase about 10 times the rate. So in order to move past that bottleneck, we need to think about workforce bottleneck and the expense of conversions and how this is all going to get financed, since a lot of homeowners can't afford the expense of these conversions. And finally, there's a need for better than septic solutions. It's become really apparent in other areas around the mainland, et cetera, that septic systems, the standard septic system doesn't really do enough to reduce pollution, especially when you're near a sensitive water body coastal ecosystem. There's also a lot of opportunities. We hope to see Hawaii as a leader in sustainable wastewater technologies, and that's a big reason that we're bringing everyone together today. We have partners from all over here to share about their technologies and how it can be applied to help solve this problem. We're really excited about circular economy principles and how that can be applied in wastewater management, reusing water. There's workforce development opportunities, which we're going to share a little bit about our Workforce for Water program in a little while. And one thing that's exciting, one thing that helps, that is, drives my passion for addressing wastewater pollution is this is, a locally addressable factor where we can improve the health of our coastal ecosystems and coral reefs. There's a lot of global factors, climate change, ocean acidification, some larger scale factors that are hard to manage just in Hawaii, but this is something we can really work on locally to increase reef resilience. So I've talked a little bit about this, is just a little more detail about the public health and environmental hazards of drinking water pollution and pathogens in recreational waters. So I'm sure a lot of you guys who live here have gone swimming sometimes and ended up being sick afterwards. I just last weekend, I got some water up my sinuses doing a big wave training on the North Shore, and ended up with a sinus infection and terrible headache for 2 or 3 days. It was right in front of the priority 1 cesspool neighborhoods, and I'm suspicious. So, and no, I mean, I know that cesspools are there, and I think that's why I got a headache. But there's also environmental hazards, the nutrient pollution from poorly treated wastewater that's discharged into the groundwater can lead to invasive algae overgrowth on reefs. There's also all kinds of other things in sewage pollution besides nutrients that can be really harmful to corals. There's some evidence linking sewage pollution to coral disease increases as well. So we're going to hear more about these environmental factors from our keynote speaker, Dr. Greg Asner, who's in the back. So I will let him share more about that towards the end, talking about West Hawaii reefs, climate change, wastewater pollution, and some other important factors. And then I also wanted to share a new paper that came out recently showing how invasive algae versus native limu responds to wastewater polluted groundwater. And this paper showed that that invasive algae really do better in the wastewater pollution conditions than the native limu. So that's another important factor to consider. On the cultural and recreational side, we have folks that engage in subsistence fishing, health of fish ponds, which are a brackish environment, enclosed, really susceptible to land-based pollution impacts. And everyone who uses the water, swimmers, surfers, fishers, paddlers, a lot of us in this room, go out in the water. We want it to be clean. We want to be able to enjoy playing in the water, recreating in the water, and fishing, etc. This is just a little bit more detail about cesspool conversion rates. I'm gonna go quickly through this since we started a little late, and I kind of already shared about the rate of conversions needing to be increased. So we'll hear a little bit later from Gabby about the Work for Water program that's working on addressing the workforce development needed to make these conversions. And then again, the financing is something that's a constant topic of conversation. Where's the money going to come from? And then, yeah, septic systems, they don't adequately reduce pollution, especially when they're near sensitive water bodies. So in areas where there's porous sandy soil or volcanic fractured rock, the effluent from septic systems in the leach field, it's not treated to a very high standard, and it can quickly enter the groundwater and nearshore systems. So that we are really interested in finding better than septic solutions and implementing those at the individual home scale. This is some more details about what a septic system does and does not do. So basically, septic systems do not remove all the nitrogen from wastewater. Typically, more in the 10 to 50% range, depending on what kind of soils surround the system. Whereas the technologies that we're hoping to see implemented reduce nitrogen by at least 50%. And some of these technologies up to 80, 90%. So that's really great. So basically, there's a little bit of information here about the nitrification and denitrification processes that are needed to reduce nitrogen from wastewater into a harmless nitrogen gas. So septic systems don't do that. Some innovative technologies do, and that's what we're really hoping to bring to Hawaii. And I'll pass it back over to Stuart to talk about legislative process.
Thank you. So as you can see, we have made a lot of progress, and there are people in this room that I want to thank over the last really 7 years. Ted Bolin is the one who got me into this crappy business about 13 years ago, so I have him to blame and thank at the same time. He was the Deputy Attorney General for the Department of Health. Sina was also has been working on these issues for years and years, and also served on the cesspool conversion working group with us. But we were able to pass Act 120 to ban new cesspools. We were the last state to do that by over 3.5 decades. And then we passed Act 125 to make sure that all of them are upgraded by 2050. Oh, sorry. And so by 2050, I thought I was doing them a favor by going off screen. Sorry, folks. And then we passed Act 132 to create the cesspool conversion working group, which a number of us served on. And then, we were able to move forward. Last year, we created some good bills that I will talk about. And it was a good year in 2022, in contrast to this past session. We were able to, the most important one is HB 2195. And that we were able to create $20,000. And by we, I mean everyone involved in supporting this, a big coalition. We've had a coalition of environmental groups and, kind of biweekly calls that we organized with many groups. And we were able to get $20,000 for low and moderate income homeowners to do cesspool conversion. One of the shocking things that came out of that was when homeowners found out that could be up to $40,000. They thought that covered the whole amount. And so they've been dealing with that kind of sticker shock of like, how much does this cost? And Hawaii is going to be one of the most expensive states in the country to do that, because we have to ship parts over here. We have, we don't have the materials, but we're working on, trying to get groups that want to, like Elgin, they want to have an assembly here. So that would they could ship so much more, and the shipping costs would go down and just assemble it here. Because right now we're kind of shipping air when we ship out these big septic tanks. And then 1806, just doing more kind of advanced systems. And Tina's been great about allowing these systems into the state and moving forward. And then this was something for large capacity cesspools to be able to do financing, a form of financing to help those people where they could do like a PACE, property assessed clean energy. And so we were able to add cesspools as part of that. And last year, we did not have as good of a session. We weren't able to pass any of the bills. This was the bill that came the closest, went all the way to the final conference. And it's the most important aspects of that, and that we're kind of unanimous in the cesspool conversion working group, is we need to create a new cesspool section that really focuses on this. Bring in, 3 full-time hires for 1 year and maybe 3 full-time hires the next, to work with the counties, to work on federal funding so we can help get more funding for homeowners across the state and for the counties. But also to do, and one of the themes today, I'll just go ahead and tell you, there are 2 major themes we're going to be talking about. We kind of hit on one, that's denitrification. The science is out, and Greg will be talking more about this. We need to do denitrification. It's a super important kind of, Greg put together this group of scientists so that we could establish once and for all the top scientists in the states and researchers to say this needs to happen. And then also decentralization. There's no way we're going to make the deadline by 2050 converting each individual cesspool. That will not happen. So if there are areas where there are large, parcels of cesspools, Hawaii Paradise Park, with over 1,000, Maui Meadows with 700, we can do decentralized systems there, and it's much more efficient, and it will be more affordable for the homeowner because we can set up payment plans instead of having them to fork out and find $40,000 and such to convert that. So we'll be coming back next year with many of these things, and just wanted to give you a kind of a preview of what, a reflection of what happened and then a preview of what's to come. As I mentioned, we have this article in the magazine today. If you could read that and spread the word, you guys are in the choir, and I'm the son of a preacher man. So, I am trying, we need to get you all talking to other people about it. And you all have been great because I know every single person in here and they are working on these issues, but we just need to bring more people and get the general public. And the legislators are really, this year has been pivotal. State legislators are like, we're on board with this now with the new science that's confirming what we already knew in the data and the need for decentralized. So that's something that we'll be working on. All right.
Oh, this is funny. Okay. Aloha, I'm Gabby. I am a program manager and instructor for the Work for Water program funded by the Department of Labor. Our goal for the Work for Water program is to address this critical technician workforce shortage to help convert all 83,000 cesspools by 2050. The Work for Water program is an entry-level course that introduces participants. Sorry, I'm trying to be both here. That introduces participants to the Hawaiʻi wastewater field and the career opportunities that are available within the industry. It is a 7-week hybrid program that is both online and in person. The course will take place. Our program is designed to provide career opportunities and pathways in order to help our participants enter or advance within the workforce. We've partnered with the University of Hawaiʻi, Hawaiʻi Community College, and the University of Hawaiʻi Maui College. We'll be teaching at both of those locations on both islands. Our goal is to recruit about 100 participants from the islands, and who can then enroll in the program free of charge and receive a $500 certificate or stipend at the end of the program. We have recently enrolled participants from Maui who have lost their jobs to the Lahaina fires, and we hope to continue to raise awareness and visibility of the Work for Water program so that we can continue to support the community and those who might benefit from this program. The first cohort will start this September, actually next week, and then our second and third cohort will start in 2024. The program is focused on providing opportunities for our participants to enter the workforce and provide them with the resources that they need to enter in specific fields and career pathways, such as designers and engineers, manufacturing, installation, operations, and maintenance. If you or anyone you know is interested in coming to our networking event, we will be providing a career expo where students will get a individual experience to meet directly with potential employers and enroll in employment opportunities, apprenticeships, and internships. So if anyone you know is interested in enrolling in the program, or anyone you know is interested in being a potential employer, please encourage them to learn more and apply at our website, waiCleanwater.org/workforwater. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby. So it looks like we're already a little bit running over time on our agenda. So I'm just gonna really quickly wrap up this section so we can start hearing from our technology partners. So as we're looking towards innovative technologies and innovative solutions, we're looking at denitrification, place-based technology selection, circular economy principles, water reuse, and also something to think about as we move forward is reducing contaminants of emerging concern that are entering into our waters. So I'm gonna just show this slide that shows all of our different partners. You can see their posters around the room. A selection of them are here as sponsors, and they have rooms here that you can talk to during the breakout rooms. That's where you get your raffle tickets. But just wanted to acknowledge all of our partners and the different scales that they work at too. Everything from individual toilet scale, individual homes, to decentralized systems, gray water management. So working across multiple scales. So I'm gonna pop ahead so we can stay on track. So I'll hand it back over to Stuart to introduce our first technology speaker.
All right. First of all, to kind of give you, some background of why we do this, and we have a vetting process that usually takes a minimum of 6 months to work with these partners to make sure that these are truly innovative technologies that work and are appropriate for Hawaii, that we reuse our resources, because frankly, we're working with a model of sanitation that is a 19th century model, right? Sewers, pumping them long distance, doing all that work to treat them, and then pumping them out to sea, or trucking solid, waste to the sludge to the landfills. It's inefficient, it's expensive, and it's not good for the environment. And so we work with companies that have a mission-driven ethos that are really committed to helping us solve our problems here. And they do pro bono and low bono donations of equipment and services for pilot projects. So it is an intense commitment for the partners that we sign up with. And we also want them to support our mission, make sure we're aligned, and the goal of doing workforce development so that we can have enough people that know how to do the technology, not only install them, but maintain them. And so congrats to all of you who've made it, because it's a process, and it takes a lot of patience and time, and we appreciate your commitment. The first one that we're going to start with is Elgin, and this is something that we're very proud of, because this is a veteran-owned company, veteran-run company, and they have over 100,000 systems worldwide, and we were able to help with Sina's help get them approved for Hawaii to do their systems, and they have 2 systems. One is NSF 40 and one is this NSF 245. That's National Sanitation Foundation. 245 reduces the nitrogen, so that's what we're really focusing on. And these are national standards that we've adapted here. We've been working together with them. They're one of our oldest partners for 3 years. And this is where I want to pause for a second before I bring Scott up. They completely donated an entire system to a veteran on the Big Island, the whole thing, start to finish. And so that's just worth acknowledging. Then they had donated all the equipment for a recent one that we'll show you. We have a little video in Waialua on the North Shore. Those were the 2 first systems. So let's give a round of applause for Elgin and for Scott, who's going to talk to us more about the benefits of this system. Yes.
Right, Aaron? Straight out. Yeah. It's on here too. It's pretty small on here. Should have brought my glasses in here with me. I'm gonna have to step to the side, I think. So there's a primary and secondary treatment, and see where the effluent enters on the top. Primary treatment in the standard system is going to be in your septic tank, but in the Elgin module, it's going to take place up in the module itself. That's where we're going to collect all of the solids, and then the sand is going to polish it off. When the effluent goes through the module and 6 inches of sand, it looks like tap water and it has no odor. By removing all those suspended solids, what's going to happen is you're not going to clog the micro and macro pores in the native soil. So that'll prolong the long-term acceptance rate. Primary treatment zone is made up of plastic cuspated core and geotextile fabric non-woven. The fabric is looped up and down. You can see in the picture here over the core. It's one solid piece. In one A42 module, you have 65 square feet of fabric. And then the plastic area that is open provides our area for oxygen to come in. So this is a typical biomat growth inside of a GSF. You can kind of see there's buildup on the plastic there. You're going to get biomat buildup on the fabric. That biomat's going to filter out all your pathogens, process the pathogens, collect all the suspended solids. Anything that does get through is going to get caught up in the sand. And we use a specific sand. It's ASTM C33. It's a washed concrete sand. And the reason they wash the sand is because the fine particles in the sand will work their way down through the more coarse particles, and they will clog all those micro and macro pores in the native soil, slowing down the effluent rate through the soil. The longer that soil stays wet, the more biomat you're going to get build up. And then that's where you're going to have a failure. So it's important to have that sand. Even on stone and pipe systems, a lot of the contractors complain that just trucking the stone, because it's vibrating, creates small particles, fines, that go down and clog the soil pores. So this is just another picture of the top of the module. There is a top and a bottom. So you can see on the left side that there is more fabric showing. On the right side is the bottom of the module. The reason why there's more fabric on the top is because we're doubling up on those cores. And it's probably not going to fail if you install them upside down, but the area where you're going to grow biomat is going to be the area where there's two wet surfaces together. So if you have the wet fabric against the wet sand, it's going to dry out slower, so you can get more biomat buildup. So there is a top and a bottom. You can see a little white stripe near the pipe. Secondary treatment zone, I said, is the sand. Anything that does make it through the module, it's going to get caught up in the sand. We're going to grow some biomat. During our NSF 40 testing, we took the system apart. We went, looked inside the sand. We had biomat buildup about 1/8 of an inch. Scrape that away underneath the sand, looked pretty good. NSF 40, we use 6 inches of sand below the module. NSF 245, which is at least 50% nitrogen reduction. It's a little different. So we have our sand layer now is 18 inches, and our denitrification layer is 18 inches of sand and wood chip mixture. That's that lignocellulose material. So what happens is we need to have an anoxic zone in order to get denitrification. Without getting too technical, you have the secondary treatment zone where you get your nitrification. So you want to get 100% nitrification there. You need oxygen for that. But in order to get denitrification and have the ammonium gas evaporate out, you can't have any oxygen. So that's why we go down to 18 inches there. And that's the difference between those two systems. And like I said, NSF 245 is a minimum of 50% denitrification. So I saw that guy here.
Yeah, that guy's here. Where's Micah? He's in the back there. This was a video.
And come and see me if you have any questions about it. I can get more detail.
Yeah, and we're gonna have questions you come up after we show this video. This is the pilot portion where we're showing, like, here's the technology, here's where we put it in the ground. And I don't see it doesn't show on here the play button.
No, it's not. You're not on there. That's okay. There, yeah, you have to do it on the screen.
Oh, okay.
My name is Stuart Poland, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of WAI's Wastewater Alternatives and Innovation. In one culture, the word "bi" is water, and in Hawaii, our water resources are threatened from contamination from cesspools and going septic systems. The good news is that there are solutions. So the first step in converting your cesspool or failing a septic system is to hire a wastewater engineer who will help design a replacement system. The engineer will design a septic system for your property, which includes a septic tank and a leach field that does denitrification, lowering the amount of nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus that can contaminate coral reefs and hurt your business. The second step is to work with your engineer to find a contractor who can take out the old cesspool and put in a new septic system. The third step is to work with your engineer and the contractor to find the best system for your property, one that does denitrification. The homeowners here had a cesspool that had to be pumped out every single month at about $300 a pump. That adds up to about $3,600 a year. And at that rate, they could have paid for the entire system in less than 10 years. Other corporations are proud of this continued relationship and partnership with WAI. WAI has helped not only our technology, but many technologies find a path into this great state of Hawaii. It is helping promote clean wastewater systems and removing cesspools. We're here today, the North Shore of Oahu, block from the ocean, to help these homeowners convert their cesspools and introduce a new system that's not only more affordable for them, but better for the environment. This is the first, this is the thought on the wall. It replaces the existing cesspool. It treats it to a higher level, since it's local to the beach. It's passive, it doesn't require power, very little maintenance. It can replace our water treatment units in certain situations. We put out a product and it's not just necessary for the environment, but cost effective. At half the size of the footprint, you can get in these residential homes and create a smaller leach field, which saves time and money for the dust bowl. Not only does Hawaii have the highest number of cesspools per capita in the country, but we were the last state to ban them by more than 3.5 decades. But here's the good news. We have an opportunity right now, we're at a crossroads, to become a leader in sanitation across the country. And it is our job as stewards of the land and the ocean to protect our water quality and our water resources here. We don't have clean drinking water. Nothing else really matters.
And I should have mentioned that that is a PSA we just did. It's not just for your, most of you know all this stuff and you heard it in our presentation, but thanks to the Ulupono Foundation, we realized that public outreach and education is essential for people to understand the steps, the basic steps, because it can be very confusing and overwhelming, you can imagine, for someone who's had a cesspool and they've never really had to do anything, unless it was backed up and it was problematic. So this will go out and we would love for you guys to help share it. We've gotten a lot of great resources from UHC grant and they've done a great job. And we have a couple people here, Melody and Maya. And so want to just share that, and we will share that after this. If you could help spread the word, post it on some of your websites, that would be great. We really want to educate folks. But I'll bring Scott back up and we can ask questions that you might have. And we really want to we want you guys to engage in this process of, like, where will this work and how do we get this? Because these need to go out there. This is a passive system that does denitrification. So let's open it up.
Just for folks if folks on Zoom have questions, they probably can't hear me from there. If folks on Zoom have questions, you can put it in the chat and someone will call on you. For folks in the audience who have questions, we're going to have to repeat it to make sure that the folks on Zoom can hear. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Yes.
Does that disposal system know the disposal system? Does it get a size relative to other?
Over a stone and pipe, I think it's 50%.
Keep that question first.
Does the Elgin system get a size reduction over other systems? And over a stone and pipe system, yes, we do. But it's also going to depend on the application rate. If you have a good application rate, I believe it's 50%. The lower that goes, we can't reduce the size that much. So if you were on a 0.4 soil, which I don't even know if there are any in Hawaii, but on a clay soil, you get less of a sizing reduction. The two systems I was on were like 2 minutes per inch.
Okay, thank you.
They're fast systems.
So the size reduction.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Go back. Oh. So there's no way for me to say what the cost is going to be because each one is going to be different. The last system we did, we had to remove a fence and we had to take a shed out. The system prior to that only had about 4 inches of topsoil. So we had to chisel through a bunch of volcanic rock. So I can't comment on what the cost is going to be. But as far as how long it'll last, we started putting these in 1982, and I went to inspect the system from 1985. It was still functioning. If you take care of it, it's going to work. If you abuse it and you're dumping grease and everything down it, then it's going to fail just like any other system would.
Can I ask a question from Maui?
Yeah, we'll come back to you. Sorry,
Yep, second.
go ahead.
So the question is, what is the frequency and cost of the maintenance? There's no maintenance unless you have a pump or something. So if you have a gravity system, there's no power, there's nothing to do to the system at all. So the maintenance cost would be zero. If you had a pump system, then they'd have to come in and clean out the lines. It's supposed to be annually. Most people do it semi-annually. Question from Maui now?
Yes, a couple actually. One is we have a lot of houses that are on very small lots with very little area around the house. What can be done in areas, in places like that? How small a system, septic system can you put in that will be effective?
So it's a minimum of 6 modules per bedroom. So it's 72 square feet per bedroom is the smallest right now. But we are currently trying to develop another product that will go on a much smaller footprint. We're going to get it testing by the end of the year.
Okay.
To help out for just those small lots. Because we know it's been brought up to our attention that there are probably 10 to 20,000 lots that can't fit a septic system on the property.
Yeah, and when we pause right there, Ramsey, you want to add something?
Yeah, have you thought about vertical other than horizontal?
We have, and that's what we're working on right now, but we have to get the testing done. We want to be able to use the existing cesspit because that has to be filled in anyway. So it's going to make it cheaper for the homeowner. We want to get the NSF 245 have 50% denitrification. It's a win-win, I think, for everybody because it's going to take care of those small lots. And it's also going to be cheaper for the homeowner because they're still paying for that cost to fill it in. So we are working on something right now for that. We're invested in this just like everybody in this room.
Second question. I live up country on Maui, 3,000-foot elevation. What are the chances that the stuff going into my cesspool ever reaches the water table before being filtered by all the 3,000 feet of soil it's going through? Is there really a problem for people who live up country, not near a drinking water source?
Well, is it 3,000 feet of soil or is it 3,000 feet of fractured volcanic rock? That's the thing. If you're not being filtered through soil that has organic material in it, then you're not getting any treatment at all.
Okay, my cesspool's been in for 52 years. I've never had to pump it out. And I just was wondering, when I dug the cesspool originally, it was done within about 3 hours. It went straight down in cinders and dirt. So
Yeah, that doesn't mean that.
Yeah, I have no
That
idea.
doesn't mean that it's. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have no idea what's under that level.
Yeah, just because it's lasted 52 years doesn't mean it's treating the effluent.
Yeah, it may not be treating it. It may just be, but I'm just wondering,
Right.
Is there a danger to the water table if it's up at that elevation and may not even get down to the water table?
It's getting down to the water table. It's going somewhere, so that's where it's going. We have a sign saying we have to wrap it up here and another one saying time. We're gonna do one more question. You can't see it. There's people in the back of the room waving these things like a flag.
We had one more question that we'll just do real quick. Yeah, Ted.
Our theme is. Where you have some kind of system in the tree warden and so.
We do that in the Midwest, like in places like Iowa and Nebraska, where you'll have a bunch of homes, but they're scattered. And we will do what's called a community system. It's the same thing we do for campgrounds and RV parks. And we also do them for condo complexes. We just did one in Pinnacles National Park. It was 1,738 modules. That's for the entire campground on the park. All right, come and see me if you have any more questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, so for this next speaker, we're gonna have to just take a quick moment and switch over the screens because we got some last minute slide updates. So if you just hang tight for 1 second.
Dennis, how could you? Uh, Dennis is Dennis Poma is a wastewater engineer that has been doing cesspool conversions and all kinds of wastewater work at many different levels for decades in Hawaii. He's also been a really good partner and friend. He's on our advisory board. And we really, appreciate work with him because he has so much experience. And he has worked with Fuji Clean to introduce one of the best performing ATUs, aerobic treatment units in the country. And we first became aware of Fuji Clean when we were working with Stony Brook University in Suffolk County, Long Island, New York. The only place, people, that has more cesspools than Hawaii. So let's give it up for Suffolk County. They make us look better. But they've been working on this issue for quite a while and have really done a good job of putting together state and county grants and even federal funding to make that work. So are these ready to go on these slides? Yeah. All right. So we'll welcome Dennis up. If you can give him a round of applause. His company is CSI. Great button. Okay.
Afternoon, everybody. Thanks everyone for coming today. I got to meet some of you yesterday, and you got to experience some of my passion and intensity on these topics for sure. And they're all laughing because Stuart knows I stand on my soapbox every 2 weeks when we talk. And I'm very passionate about trying to find solutions. ACSI stands for Advanced Compliance Solutions. I made the company 21 years ago because I was all about providing viable solutions. It wasn't even wastewater at that time, but it's very applicable today. I'm going to perpetuate your theme a little bit because and he just said, I mean, there's nothing more to say about Fuji. We're a compact, very low energy efficient system. They cater to residential applications. Like that question we just had on if there's no space. We're doing a lot of systems that are small space. We do a seepage pit, so you don't need a lot of square footage. You're converting the cesspool to a concrete ring seepage pit. So very small, we go direct to groundwater. We've got great treatment. And we're even having to deconstruct a house in order to fit something on. We've got some really tough areas, challenges that we're going to face. So the nitrogen reduction, sure, all of us, and I've got projects with Orenco on multifamily or neighborhood systems. So we're doing a lot. Fuji also has some commercial systems. We're doing several condominiums on the North Shore as well. So we've got all applications to meet anything. I'm working with WAI on the ASB, the American Savings Bank project. So we're looking for 3 projects on the Big Island to actually do multiple technologies. So one of them would be a Fuji Clean. We're looking to do an Elgin system and maybe another application. Maybe it's the infiltrator, aero fins, or something to that degree. So if we can find applications there, that would be great. In the video that you just saw, or one of the slides said, step number 1 is the engineer. That's me. I'm here more as the engineer today. And so before I get into some of my, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on, this is my 3rd year. I don't think we've really accomplished enough. We're having these struggles. Our conversations yesterday, I think, really highlighted some of this. So I wanted to, this morning, I revised my slides a little bit to maybe just adjust, what we're talking about, because what we're doing is not effective. But we're a group of scientists and engineers in this room, and we can solve this problem. I want to solve this problem. And so that's where we're at. Which the arrow button?
I should write it. This over. You can probably hit.
Yeah, I messed it up by doing PDF.
Oh yeah, it's the PDF
So it should be a down button.
Hit the down button. There you go.
There you go. Okay. Whoops. Okay. All right. So we can't see it here. So I brought my print. Okay. So it's actually one too far, I think. Oh, gotta get that right. wrong way.
Oh, is it going the wrong way?
Slow response.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So these are actually very current statistics because what's the focus of this group? Cesspool upgrades and replacements, right? This is 2020 through 2022, the past 3 years. And so, but this is permits issued. Now you got to take this with a little bit of grain of salt, but there was a slide that said we're only converting 200 to 300 cesspools a year. I don't know how accurate that is. Maybe Sina can speak to the accuracy of that or not. But so in here, I tried to just kind of look at, all right, well, Big Island, they have the most. They're doing on average about 900, a year, 800 to 900 a year. If 50% of those permits were cesspool upgrades, that's 400. So I think we're doing more than 200 or 300. In talking, I interviewed each of the kind of island reviewers and, just trying to gauge, how many are new systems, how many are cesspools, right? But we got to focus on if we're going to make this goal, we got to focus on the cesspool upgrades, and we're not going to do it one IWS by one IWS. So this kind of shows, where we'd be at if we were at 50% cesspools, we're maybe doing 600 conversions a year. So do the math real fast. 26 years left, 83,000 cesspools. If we're less than 1,000, right, we need to be doing over 3,000 a year, right? So we're really behind the 8 ball. So what, we're just really trying to find what can we do to make this really truly happen. And then also I'd like to congratulate Stuart and Ramsey and Sina. Did everyone see PBS special last week? Yeah, that was great. I thought they did a great job. Thank you. Okay, so, can we get to the goal one IWS at a time? No, I don't think so. So what are the solutions? Certainly technology has some solutions. The decentralized systems we're certainly looking at, and that brings other challenges to the table as well because our rules aren't designed. We have 2 chapters, one for residential systems and one for larger wastewater treatment, commercial, municipal type systems. So it does bring those challenges. What are some of the, just obstacles to meeting that? We've got, as we talked about yesterday, if you're over 49 homes, you've got to do EA, EIS. There's, no more underground injection control wells, right? So now you've got space issues on getting disposal systems in, right? And whether it's a lagoon system or naturalized wetlands or standard leach fields, right? So we've got to overcome those. And of course, in Hawaii, we don't have a lot of land and a lot of space. So how do we do that? That common land or space, now you start bringing in real estate issues, transactional issues, common space issues, conservation land issues, all sorts of things that, just make it for us to be those challenges. So the engineer in me said, well, let's kind of look at that a little bit. Just take, 100,000 gallon system, a cluster system, that comes out to, say an average 4-bedroom home. That's 125 homes. Let's go to Hawaiian Paradise Park. We're going to take groupings of 100, 125 homes. Let's say the perk rate is low at 3 minutes per inch. Then, it's going to take 50,000 square feet, roughly an acre, a little more than an acre, in order to accomplish some sort of disposal system, right? And then you also have to have 100% backup. So where is this land going to come from, right? Now let's say you're in a more clay zone, even at 15, which is still a pretty good rate. Now you're starting to go up to 2 acres. And so these are things that we've got to think about. Now go up to, 500,000 gallons, right? And it just gets to, like, as we were talking in Kapalulu yesterday, right? Then that kind of system, which was 700 lots, right? As you start breaking it down, what size do you break it down to? Now you really, I did a quick math yesterday and we were up around 10 acres, right? You need 10 acres just for a single leach field kind of thing, right? So that's where, those are kind of the obstacles. So this is an advertisement for Thursday's roundtable because we're going to start really hammering. We're going to have all the scientists and engineers and regulators and everybody in the room, and we're going to solve these problems on Thursday in 2 hours. Okay, so bring your brain into everything. All right, so I'm told to wrap up. I guess 15 minutes goes by really fast. How do we get there? More or better legislation? Yep, we've seen it. 10 bills didn't pass last year. We got to get better legislation, better regulations, more money to the counties. Again, economics, education. So these are just kind of my thoughts on where we need to go and everything. And then And then I was gonna do a little bit on the technology, but again, you know, Fuji's got solutions for everything, just like Orenco, Infiltrator, you know, we've all got solutions. We're just another provider. We're happy to do that. I'll take questions. I didn't have any jokes this year. Not enough time.
You don't have enough time.
Yeah. Questions? Go ahead. The question was, what kind of sites are our systems best suited to? Really all sites. You know, like I said, we can do very small scale where there's very limited room. We do a lot of variances. Sina knows I do a lot of variants for a lot of sites just because there's not enough room. We are pretty compact. We've got solutions for 500 gallons up to 6,000 gallons. And we haven't really sought the reduction of maybe the leach field size for aerobic. You know, we have very good treated water, so we don't necessarily need the soil to treat, you know, our organic loading and everything. So we'll probably be seeking that as well.
Any questions? What is Maya and then
You mentioned decentralized systems. Are there case studies from other parts of the world that we should look to? Good examples that we should follow here.
I think that's a better question for Aramco. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there are. Yeah, I mean, they're in clusters have been around. It's, you know, EPA has studies on it that other regions are certainly doing it. So it is, if we need to do larger clusters of homes, for sure. And actually, I don't know if Authors Online, Molokai, DHHL is leaning in that direction for some of their upgrades for their assessment.
the design?
Yeah, there's a table D and appendix D that we go to, which is just standard for based on percolation and square feet, 200 gallons per square feet. In the back.
Yeah.
Yep, that was actually the next slide there. These are the package plant is basically we have contract filtration. We go through an aerobic chamber. So we go through ammonification, nitrification, and denitrification. You know, it's all the same chemistry that, you know, similar to the Elgin, right, that we go through in the biological process and all. So it goes through multiple chambers. It gets recirculated constantly throughout the day in order to accomplish that denitrification, which occurs in that anoxic zone, which is our middle chamber.
What's the average cost of your system in comparison to a traditional septic system?
Good question. The question was, what's the cost of our system to a traditional septic? So our standard, again, it's going to depend a little bit on size of the system, to the quality of the soil, right, and the infiltration ability. And then, so I tell everyone we're basically anywhere from 10 to 15,000 incrementally difference. And it's really just the difference in cost of the tank, because everything else is exactly the same. And then electric, we're very low depth. You can actually plug it into an outlet and you can be off and running. We've got 1 minute left.
Units have been deployed across the world.
Yep. So we've basically been, or since I've been involved with Fuji for the past 3.5 years, we're averaging 25 systems per year. So I'm just under 100 right now. And we're doing some commercial projects as well with our 6,000 gallon systems. Ramsey?
How fast you can produce large quantities?
Yeah, I met with Fuji. We flew out to Maine to our manufacturing facility. You know, we can produce, they can produce, I think they do 8 a day in their manufacturing. So if we needed to, if we had a large scale system, or I mean, a large scale project, then we would set up an assembly facility here based on whatever. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, the maintenance. So the question was on maintenance. So the state requires twice a year. It takes about 20 minutes to service our units, and you know, most service providers charge 125 to 175 an hour. So you're looking at, an hour and a half, 2 hours. So typically, most people are going to be $600 to $900 a year for maintenance on the system. Most of it's travel time and mobilization. Yeah. She's getting ready to raise the no more time. When you say desludging, very, very infrequent. So we are part of the recirculation is to take the sludge from the last chamber and we recycle it back into the first chamber. So we've never had to do any here. According to Fuji, it should take a minimum of 7 years, depending on your usage. Again, it also depends on fats, oils, and greases and what's going into it and everything. But it'd be very infrequent. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Just another one.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm gonna just switch back to our other slideshow. So just one moment here.
Yeah, and we're working with Dennis and American Savings Bank. And this is a very, very interesting program. We're going to bring up the flyer in a second. Do you guys understand the difference between large capacity cesspools and regular cesspools? Most people do. Large capacity cesspools are usually affiliated with commercial or businesses over 1,000 gallons per day. They are regulated by the EPA. And so when they came in to show you this conversion process, we're trying to convert cesspools. When the EPA came in with the large capacity cesspools in 2005, they cracked the whip and they were able to do thousands of large capacity cesspools, and they were fines to back it up. There are still a couple of hundred large capacity cesspools across Hawaii. What ASB did is they didn't realize one of their remote branches, they weren't even aware, had a large capacity cesspool, and they were being fined for that. And they were kind of like, we didn't even know it was there. No, the public can't use the restrooms, but they're like, if one customer uses it per year on an emergency basis, they said, okay, we'll have to convert this. But what they did, and we hope this can be a model for the rest of the state, is they said, instead of us paying these fines and going back to the US government into the treasury, where we don't know where that's going, they said, can we use that money to help low-income homeowners convert their cesspools? And to the EPA's credit, they allowed it, and they went for it. And so we are going to be supervising that project. We're working with Dennis. We're going to do 3 conversions on the Big Island. And we think with so many, there's still a lot of large capacity cesspools left. And these are some of the big landowners that have them. This is a great way to say, let's create a model where we can help low-income people who otherwise there's no way they could afford the expenses. So we're very excited about this. You're getting the launch of a lot of new programs. This is just about to launch. So we would love your help in helping to promote it, but also most importantly, the model. Let's get this model. And we have Barry Pollock here from the EPA, and we're trying to work with them, their civil enforcement division, to try to make this more of a model across Hawaii. And so Dennis is going to be helping with that. And we're going to try to do diversity of systems, and then also do it in an area where we're doing some water quality monitoring to see if we can see the difference in the water quality once we do those conversions. So that's super exciting. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a break. This is when networking happens. Our providers are going to be in their rooms. Make sure you get raffle tickets, folks. We went out and got these great prizes. So go and see each one. It's a different raffle for each room. And we'll take about 10 minutes and get to know each other, talk, and we'll come back here in exactly 10 minutes. Mahalo. All right. Mahalo for you all online for your patience. We're going to switch things up. Okay, everybody, if I could have your attention, please. We are going to switch things up just to keep you on your toes. Our keynote speaker has to fly back to Kona today, and he is hosting the ICRI, International Coral Reef Institute Initiative on the Big Island. So this was really like a huge favor to us that Greg Asner flew over, and it just worked out perfect timing with the Nature paper. Kim Falinsky was one of the authors on that. If you can raise your hand from TNC. This paper is a big deal. Jamie Gove was the lead author, and many people that I could mention, and maybe Greg will. And Greg was the senior author. And putting this study together. You can read more about it in the Hawaii Business Magazine article. But I met Greg at the Hawaii Sustainability Summit that Hawaii County put on, and Harvey Stone was like, "You have to meet Greg Asner," and I've been meaning to meet Greg Asner. He's got the research that we need. And he said, "I've been meaning to meet you too." And we just literally, as soon as we met, we were like, we have to work together. And he's been a fantastic partner. He brings such like high level science to this, and he has like the most state of the art equipment and doing monitoring. So he is not only he's the director of the ASU Center for Global Discovery and Conservation Science, but also he's the lead director of the Allen Coral Atlas that's mapped the world's reefs using this incredible technology that he'll tell us about. So he is a real authority on this topic, but more importantly, he's just a hell of a nice guy. So let's give it up for Greg Asner.
Aloha mai kako. It's nice to see everybody. Thanks, Stuart. Vi, thank you guys for having me. I'm sorry to leave, but it's rare that you have the International Coral Reef Initiative coming to Hawaii. That we're having our 37th Congress tomorrow. I'm the host in the morning, and it happens to be in Kailua Kona. So I'm going to miss the best part of today, which is the reception. Yeah. How do I do the thing I'm gonna do? Just press that arrow.
Yeah, it should,
Okay.
it should cycle through.
You were too kind to say how much I did on the Nature paper. I'm the senior author is the last author in science, and it's like the crusty old guy or gal. This is my 30th year as an environmental scientist in Hawaii. My 30th year is 2023, and I cannot believe that it took so many years for me to meet folks like you. If you don't know who I am, it's my fault as a scientist, and I'm pretty hardcore on the science community for not being applied enough. It took me about 20 of my 30 years to go, what the heck are we doing if we're not doing the applications that are gonna support communities? And so if you know who I am, you know that I'm kind of fire and brimstone about that. And that's only because I got tenure like 25 years ago. So I can say whatever the heck I want at this point. Is it working? Oh, man. Thank you, Christine.
It should work.
So yeah, I've never lived in Arizona. If you're wondering, and most people wonder about ASU, they showed up 5 years ago and said, "Hey, we really want a coastal marine program. We want to invest. We want to do it through our community extension program, which has a funny name called Global Futures." I was here working out of Hilo for decades, and I said, "Cool, that's really neat because we need more applied work with communities." And so that's the relationship to ASU. And yes, I do also co-direct the Hawaii Marine Education Research Center, which is a community-based system down in South Kona, where my heart really lies in a lot of these issues. Okay. This image is from one of our aircraft systems. I have a fleet of vessels, aircraft that are doing monitoring with DLNR, NOAA, and lots of other folks in West Hawaii and statewide once a year. but in West Hawaii all the time. That image is a useful one because it doesn't tell you the health of the reef. It doesn't tell you much about that reef other than you can see some sand and some dark areas, and you have no idea if the coral's live or dead, or if it's macroalgal covered, or what's happening. And so what I'm not going to do is show you all the tech behind a lot of what we do, but nowadays we can map where the corals are, how they're doing, where the algae is, down to about 85 feet of water depth, which is 99.5% of our coral surface in Hawaii. We don't have much coral surface below that depth. What I'm going to do to make this brief, given that I know who the audience is today, you're already in the choir, you're already worrying about all of these issues. This is a talk I gave to the county council about 3 weeks ago, just a few days before the Nature paper came out. So as the old senior author, I walked in there and said, I got a story to tell you, county council. And to my delight, they were very engaged. The Hawaii County Council, which covers the Big Island of Hawaii. So I had to. I'm just kind of paraphrasing what I was telling them about. Telling them about the importance of our coral reefs. You can read that. But the problems that we have are just almost now becoming insurmountable in some areas on the Big Island. I will tell you from monitoring the entire state that there are areas that we cannot address. They're just too far down the road. The Big Island is at what we call the land use transition, where the system is starting to teeter between sustainable conditions to unsustainable conditions in certain spots. But we're not all the way there yet. So it's a very important place. These are some of the drivers. 85% of people live within just a few miles of the ocean in Hawaii. Most human activities, development and infrastructure are thus concentrated along shorelines, and land-based impacts, and this is the punchline of the Nature paper, including runoff and wastewater and others that I'll mention to be holistic here, really are the most essential worries that we have as coral reef scientists. I'm a coastal and coral reef scientist who is at a wastewater experts meeting. That's finally the state. Kim beat me here by, I don't know, decades, but at least I'm here now. This is that, and this is open access. We publish it. We paid the big bucks to publish it open access. So if I could put it on your website, you can do things with it. This is free to read. And the reason I put this up here is that it's critically important that you understand that this study covers only West Hawaii Island, and I'll talk about it in some detail in a minute, but that the author list are pretty much the who's who of anyone that works in this space. And it was critical to us and Jamie and Gareth are the real leaders here. I'm just the crusty guy in the background helping. But it was critical to the process to get the scientists on the same page to create an internationally high-ranking journal output that we all agreed on. There's federal, the head of DAR, Division of Aquatic Resources of the DLNR is listed here, Brian Nielsen. Critically important contributors to the entire process, not just this paper, but decades of work. And that's what I wanted you to know. And that's why I'm really happy that this finally came out. It was a painful process to get this done. I don't know if you can see I don't know what you see over there. I'm going to go with what I see here. This is the outcome of about 20 years of accumulated research. To make a really long story as short as possible, it included detailed field measurements over those years. And those measurements of the coral reefs of West Hawaii Island started to tell a story. And I'm going to break the story up into two phases. The story before our first major climate event and the story after the first major climate event. The first major climate event in West Hawaii was in 2015. We had the first, what we call a marine heat wave. We had a marine heat wave in 2014. It didn't really touch West Hawaii. The first West Hawaii Island heat wave was in 2015. So this part of this story is until just before that moment. And this is going to matter in a minute. Monitoring these reefs through time in West Hawaii, we were seeing that there were reefs that were increasing in quality in terms of coral cover. That's one of our major metrics of the quality of a reef. And there were reefs that were decreasing in quality. before climate change. I cannot tell you how important that is. Before the kind of the advent of West Hawaii climate change, we already had reefs that were improving and reefs that were declining. Yes, Puako, the famous one, was on the decline, and it had declined already quite a lot. But this was critical in our thinking. What is going on in these reefs? Why are some increasing in quality and some decreasing in quality prior to the major first climate event? Jamie's team put together an amazing data set. It's compiled from a lot of the co-authors. It's field calibrated, model driven data. It's a complicated graph, but you just look at it and let me tour you through it a bit here. First of all, the first panel here is West Hawaii Island, the area I'm talking about. It's 120 miles from Upolu Point in the north to Kalai, also known as South Point in the south, okay? And the monitoring and this entire study is focusing on that area. That area is the largest contiguous tract of coral reef in the archipelago. It is the place that I know and love deeply. I know it. I know this place like you know your favorite place on earth. And I still get choked up talking about it because it's such an incredible coastline. And you may go to a resort, but you're seeing none of it. I get to work the entire region from the air and from sea, and it is absolutely epic, but also teetering in a lot of places along that coastline. Now, what was mapped through this in this nature paper in this process? The second panel is human population, and you can see the yellows to the blues. You see the increase in human population largely centered around Kailua Kona, but it's zoomed way out. But there's increases all over the place, and then different categories of what we thought about as possible reef stressors. Urban runoff, which is kind of a roll-up of a bunch of different factors. Wastewater pollution, we'll talk about that. Nutrient loading as a subset of that. Sediment input. And then other drivers that would affect coral, like peak rainfall and wave exposure and physical factors. And then the colors are, kind of going from the yellows to the purples and the changes through time. And you can see some areas are increasing in, say, urban runoff, because the darker peaks are to the right of the yellow peaks and so forth. Other areas actually, like sediment input, we've seen decreases in South Kona. Anyone know why? Drought. I think decreasing rainfall, another life that I have. So we've had a lot of increasing problems over time, a couple of decreasing, but mapped out, again, field calibrated model driven data. Making a super long story short here. You have to read the paper. It's extremely detailed. This is kind of the pre-heat wave what we found. Now, there's the blue, the graphic on the far right is the blue increase, quality of the reefs increasing, the red quality of the reefs decreasing. Prior to the heat wave, with those model-driven data, we determined through statistical and geostatistical analysis that there were factors that were related to it's going to work? Yes, factors related to the improving reefs over time. And you can read them here. They largely had to do with fish management. Fish eat algae. Algae keep that substrate available for coral settlement. I'm a coral settlement specialist. And yes, the corals do get very affected by how much macroalgae is on the seafloor. There is almost no more important factor than that. Okay, so areas along the West Hawaii coastline that had high concentrations of different groups of fish that take care of this reef had improving reef over time. Areas in the red that had decreasing were geostatistically highly significantly related to nutrient loading, urban runoff, and wastewater pollution. This was the most sort of arresting set of results that we had in the process. Arresting for all of us. Like, we have been trying to figure this out, but the data were so clear that it came out in a very clear statistical sense this time. I'll get back to that in a minute. Then the data passed through the first heat wave. And you can read that for yourself. Ocean temperatures are increasing, marine heat waves are becoming more common, rainfall is decreasing, but the peaks are becoming more extreme. when it rains and pours. In other words, there's Hawaii. This is the kind of the evolution of the heat wave in 2015. You see 3 hot bands in the Pacific. Who was here in 2015? It was really hot. I literally would see tourists jump in the water and jump back out. It's that hot, very literally. Just so you know, since then we've had one other heat wave. It was about half as long, but actually a little hotter, but for half as long in 2019. And I was very involved in that. I'm not talking about that today. There's the look of that 2015 heat wave with the red line up there. All the white lines are the seasonal cycle of our ocean temperatures, just the natural seasonal cycle. We have minimums in March, and our warmest months in the ocean are about now, naturally. Those are all those white lines. But that red line in 2015 took us out of our comfort zone. It took corals out of their comfort zone too. At the time, we were talking about marine heat waves killing coral, and what we didn't think about was the compounding effects. And that's what the next part of this story is about. This is a little bit complicated. I'm a scientist, so bear with me. I think this is the end of the science part. The reefs that we were monitoring through time had a certain amount of coral just before the heat wave hit. Okay, and that's shown here. This is 2014, 2015. These are all the reefs we're monitoring, and this is the coral cover at the moment just before the heat arrived. Some reefs were already low, some were very high in coral cover. There was just a lot of variability, right? And I told you all about that. Wastewater, herbivore fish, that was all really important in leading up to this moment. Then the heat wave came, and we had this crazy set of responses in these reefs. You can read it up there. Max coral cover loss. We lost nearly 50% of our coral in some places. It is not true that we lost 50% of our coral overall. People are saying that because I think the press sort of titrates out the facts down to the minimum. But there were places where we lost half. A quarter of the reefs, however, had about 20, not however, a quarter of the reefs had 20% or more coral mortality. So not all reefs that bleach die. Those that bleached about greater than 20% actually went through massive mortality events. And it was disheartening, let me tell you. I'm pretty calloused veteran scientist, and it was hard to watch, I gotta say. And we couldn't do anything about it. But what was amazing is that there was about 20% of the reefs that didn't decline or actually improved through the heat wave. And so we're scratching, everyone, the authors are scratching their head trying to figure out what is it, see if this is going to work. What is it that, is that working? It's not working. What is it that caused that sort of positive response? And what we found, to make a long story short, is that reefs that had the highest fish populations and the lowest levels of land-based pollution made it through the heat wave the best. I just summarized a massive amount of a complicated story. Kim has probably gone, how did he try to do that? So yeah, all in one slide. And this is really detailed in the report. I just don't want to bore you with the details. But honestly, this was so enlightening for us. We said, wow, if we can keep our reef water clean and full of fish, we're going to be able to squeeze these reefs through these repeated heat waves. The way I try to explain it to people is take an hourglass. Everyone know what an hourglass is? Turn it on its side. And now the hourglass is a pinch. We have got to clean up these waters, and we've got to keep these fish populations high to be grazing these reefs in order to get them through this pinch of these heat waves. That is the only way forward. The only way forward. That's what that says. The response to this has been pretty great. On the DLNR side, that's the state agency that has jurisdiction over reefs. The Division of Aquatic Resources is within DLNR. If you haven't noticed, if you're not from here, there's been campaign after campaign after effort to try to work with communities and the mentality of our fishing communities to try to increase our herbivore fishes on these reefs. And I talked about why that's so important. The grazing to battle down that algae is very important. So they've been doing their job. They're struggling to get it done because there's a lot of dissent over this, but it is a thing, and I wanted to be holistic in the presentation. The need comes from this group. This, I cannot tell you how important we all think you all are, because those are the geospatial data sets that show us where our on-site sewage disposal systems, OSDS systems, are, and our field calibrated model-based effluent estimates. You see hotspots. It's not just where the cesspool conversion prioritization is. No way. That had Puako and Kailua Kona, but I live in South Kona and those hotspots down south. Some of you visited me yesterday and you saw why. It's all cracked rock down there. There's no soil. Hardcore down there, I think. And so I am a strong proponent of solutions to both cesspools and septic tanks. I do want to give you, I want to take you home to my home, to a place that keeps me working every day 30 years later. And I think I'm getting more energetic as I go, because you know, the need is so great. The South Kona district that's in this red box of Hawaii County is a very special place because it's still environmentally quite epic, but it's got these issues as population continues to expand to the south. If you travel through that area and wonder what's around you, it's a little hard to see on this from the back of the room. There are green areas of conservation land, but look how few of them touch the ocean. And if you really squint, for example, that big green wedge is state DLNR land. It doesn't touch the ocean, okay? But a lot of it doesn't touch the ocean, and you can see all that stippling in there. That stippling is associated with, that stippling is associated with subdivisions and growth. And so, yeah, we need wastewater treatment in the region. What's really ironic is that the southern part of this, kind of from here to here, I know you can't see online, southern part of the district, in August 2nd of 2022, Governor David Ige and the chair of DLNR and everyone, after a decade of effort, came over and finally put into place the state's, for the main islands, largest marine managed area, 19 miles of coastline. It's co-managed by Hawaiian cultural leaders and DLNR. It's called a CBSFA, Community-Based Subsistence Fishing Area, terrible acronym, but it is the pathway forward for managing reefs because it allows communities to work with the government to come up with effective management solutions that help our reefs, at least from a fishing point of view. Ironically, this is the area where there's an explosion of development. And if you think South Kona is this rural place, you haven't lived my life. It's definitely wildly developing, okay? When I started, there were 3 languages spoken, and I'm publishing this right now, a whole history of South Kona. There are 13 languages spoken now. It is not the place that you may have thought it was if you haven't been there in a while. It's really developing, and these issues are ironic because they're against a culturally based subsistence fishing area of epic proportion that took a decade for our Hawaiian practitioners to establish. Here's this place in 1954 before statehood. It's a little bit before I was born. Not that long, but just before I was born. You can see this area that is near and dear to me. I'm just using this as a case study. By 65, we had just become a state in 59. All these subdivisions were put in. A lot that you see dirt roads, thermal imagery in 92. You see houses, 01. And nowadays, my aircraft system, we use AI-based methods for mapping in 3D where all the homes and sheds and everything are routinely. And there's that one subdivision. And that's what we can expect. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that's bad if that is not being treated, as in wastewater treated properly. I'm all for the housing, but not with this flowing into the reef that just got the most important culturally based marine managed program behind it after a decade of effort. So I think these are the issues. We're always saying that land-sea connections are deeply rooted in Hawaiian resource knowledge. That is true. I could start speaking to that, but I don't have time. But the way that our government is working, and I was talking to Ramsey, who I really like talking to because he's in the middle of this too, is like, how do we get state and county and other jurisdictions to be able to work across these boundaries in a solution space that's going to benefit the people along this reef. That's what that says. Our findings from the Nature paper very strongly, and I really did just gloss over it because it's I'm between you guys and your happy hour and a few other times. So it's just the data are wicked clear, actionable, litigatable, that these issues have to be addressed, both on the ocean side of management and on the coastal land side of management. I'm going to end with this slide. I'm going to tell you what, and it's been announced. I have committed $25 million to West Hawaii, already done myself. We are putting in this new program in West Hawaii. It's not just about planting coral. It's about changing how we're looking at how we're doing our work together between government, cultural leaders, community, and science. It's called Akoakoa. That's a name that I have learned through my cultural advisors where I live. It's got a dual meaning in the Hawaiian language, to assemble people, and for coral polyps to assemble on the seafloor as coral colonies. Literally, that is the word. So I'm doing my part. We're going to support you guys. We're going to do everything we can to change the way that we're developing in West Hawaii and anywhere else. This is my footprint. This happens to be our new restoration center's architectural drawing. It's not built yet. It's fully funded at the OTEC facility, also known as NELHA. And those buildings with the solar panels are now me. So I'm happy to take any questions. I hope that's inspiring. I hope it motivates. I could have done more brimstone, but I decided to chill out today. Okay.
Please, let's do some questions. This is very exciting that you're on cutting edge in this case, at least,
So we all probably know that government may not work as fast as science. What, or if anything, is being done from a DNA type, and I don't know enough about fish and coral, but is there anything being done to help maybe modify these organisms in a way that they can be more tolerant to certain pollutants that we've infiltrated into their ecosystem? The question is environmental tolerance of, say, coral. Yes. Yeah, it's a careful answer because people think we're genetically modifying zombie corals and things like that. That is not true. No matter what the movies say or the news says, we are as reef scientists, we have faced the fact that we do have to do some breeding of corals for thermal tolerance, but that breeding is not GMO stuff. It's just getting the corals that are showing natural resistance, getting them into a facility like that. This facility will be the largest coral nursery on Earth. We open in December. And that whole facility is for mass production of replication of corals that are showing thermal tolerance. Your question is expansive to that. And this new facility is going to allow for turbidity manipulations, nutrient manipulations, to see if we can generate some, do the same thing for other environmental factors other than heat. The problem with any of this is that it's the macroalgae that is really, really responsive. I'm glad you brought up that paper earlier today, Christina. Some of the algae are extremely responsive to nutrient additions, and it's like the tortoise and the hare. The coral is the tortoise, the hare is the algae, and the algae will win. And that's why if a lot of people come to Hawaii and they dive or snorkel and they go, wow, it's ugly. They want to look at manta rays and dolphins instead because the reef looks ugly. That's all that macroalgal cover. Some islands are really pretty far gone, to be blunt. I have to map them every year. But Big Island has still got a lot to offer. So we're going to try to not breed, not GMO, but just hedge our bets with corals that are getting through, propagate them in this facility and put them out. We think we can do something like 3 to 5 trillion larvae per year. Wow. A whole new scale. That's why it's so expensive. Yes.
For data enabling you to indicate how much of the damage from the land is due to that cold or septic, and how much is due to other pollutants that are washing off the stormwater?
We're not good enough yet to know that. We cannot separate that. I think we have that in certain areas that have one more than the other. you understand. So in South Kona, we have certain areas that we know don't have much sedimentation, but we have effluent. And then other areas that have the other one. But I don't have a generic answer for you. I wish I did. The science is not that detailed yet.
How much of the fish impact is aquarium fish?
Leave me out of that. Everyone knows I have a background there. I will stay out of that. We need more herbivore fish. Pono fishing is part of that. And, the CBSFA of the Hawaiian village of Milili'i, 19 miles of coastline, prohibits aquarium industry. Why? Because it's not part of their cultural practice. So they got that passed, right? They have other rules and regs. Yes, you and I can go pole fishing all we want. Doesn't mean you can't fish. It means that it has to fit their long-term intergenerational management of how that fishery has been sustained for, centuries. So in that place, there's no aquarium. Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, I'm missing hands, but go for it. Yeah.
Thanks for the active work that you're doing with this. Essentially, I think your wastewater nutrients are triggering medical health goes.
Yes.
But what's keeping the herbivore fish from just increasing populations, for algae?
We have very heavy fishing pressure. In a separate study that we published in 2019 or 2020, I forgot now, one of my postdocs, we found that over a 10-year period from 2008 to 2018, for every 3 fish that were there on the reef fish in 2008, there was 1 left in large tracts of West Hawaii. We have had a massive amount of fishing going on, reef fishing. So there just aren't enough and subsequent studies from that same postdoc and follow-on postdocs have shown that the area is suppressed in herbivore fish. There are hot spots and cold spots of what I'm saying. Some people say my area is great. That's true. We know the whole coastline. The southern part of the West Hawaii coastline decreased more in the study period I just mentioned, the 10 years, than the north. There's more herbivore fish proportionally in the north than the south. There isn't one size fits all. And so DAR is trying to manage all that. I don't want to speak for them. I don't think Brian's here, but they're trying to manage the fact that there's an average problem and then there are cold spots and hot spots within that. It's not easy. Yeah.
How much oil festival is fun for this 2 parts? So how much oil governance required to recover from the say, has there been enough time successful to demonstrate in recovery after
the question there are people online, right? The question I think is, well, I kind of heard the second part stronger.
I get it. I'll rephrase that. How far is it gone? And then when you see success examples of stuff.
How understood. The question is how far in terms of reef decline is too far gone? I can answer that better than I can the second part because I don't know that we've seen enough cesspool conversion to see an effect, but maybe Christina and Vi know that better than me, and maybe Kim knows. Let me ask Kim. But one thing that I do know in my world is that reefs that have so far declined that we're starting to see the dissolution rate, the carbonate loss rate from the reef exceed the rate of calcification. It's kind of a technical term, but if you think about it, it's carbonate. There are areas in West Hawaii that we're measuring the departure of carbonate is faster than the accretion rate. To us, that's pretty hard to slow down. These are like biogeochemical forces of nature at this point. And I could name those places. We know them extremely well. And we monitor them.
Finish off with talking about some of the declines, like what we're talking about, like in
Fuako, we have a study coming out. When I always say it this way, I know the steward's like, here he goes again. When I was a couple years old, it had 70 to 80% coral cover. We have confirmation of that. We have data on that. And today it has 7%. There were 2 steep declines in the period. You guys saw the S curve yesterday when you visited me. It's not, I didn't put it today. The second decline is definitely related to the more modern development of the Puako area. The early decline, we're not too sure, from 1970 to 1985. Trying to figure it out. That's why it's not published yet.
All right, I'm sorry.
Yes, gotta go.
We do start moving on. Do you
Okay.
want to share?
One pass of cane in the islands. So we dredge these island nutrients for sugarcane, and in some places the reef was able to recover, stabilize, and so there is still to be that again. Dredging with different types of legumes in different form, but we can fix this.
I couldn't agree more. Kim is completely right, and she's guided a lot of my thinking on this. She is the expert on this. But honestly, you know, if we can mitigate the things that I'm talking about here, we will get these reefs on a great track, even with warming waters. Even with warming waters. We used to not think that. The science community has changed radically in the last 5 years because we see where resilience exists and where it doesn't. And it doesn't exist in these polluted, low fish environments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, we have two more presentations, exciting presentations from some other technology partners. Let me just switch the slides up. Just give me one moment here.
And again, you know, want to thank Greg for taking time out of his super busy schedule to come here. And it really just reminds us of like how serious this is. We're talking about dramatic decline. And our coral reefs are not, it's not only about the environment, it's not only about public health. This is our protection against hurricanes, severe storms, flooding. You cannot let our coral reefs continue to decline like this. Now we have all the data we need to move forward legislatively in another way. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So we were just in Millilite yesterday, and Rinko is one of our older partners, and they have created a model of conveyance because that's a huge issue. We have very advanced treatment systems, like Chris is going to talk about Closina, but conveyance is a real issue. And so they have kind of solved for that in many ways, and not clicking, Christina, not moving forward. Sorry. All right. And so they have created a system that is kind of a hybrid system. So you have a tank in the yard. They're going to tell you about more detail, but what I like about this company and Closina is that these are family-owned companies, and they have specialized in this for generations. Both companies, it's generational, and they've devoted, they're very, very mission-driven. And so they are looking at the long game. They're losing money in the shorthand in Hawaii, but they know that this is important because there's so much at stake. And so they've done systems across the country. They've worked with counties to make it work. So this is why, you know, what they do is so important. So let's give a big round of applause to Mike Saunders, who has flown in from the East Coast and has had a lot of stuff going on. And when we ask for like studies, like we're going to look at this community, it's 6 hours ahead, it's at night, and Mike is churning out these reports and for us in like no time whatsoever. So we deeply appreciate all the work that you guys and Bill have put into it. Jeff, the owner, was going to be here, but he got sick right before the trip and couldn't make it. But let's give a big round of applause for Mike.
Thank you, Stuart. So kind of interesting. So Orenco water, like I say, one of the things that people don't realize, because we get framed as this new technology or something that's, you know, just coming to being. Kind of interesting fact, we've been around for 42 years, and we've grown from 2 founders that started a company in their garage to 460 employees today. And what's interesting about Orenco, and why I like there, as Stuart said, we're a 2nd-generation family company, but you know, we're going to talk about products like Pralos and Advantex today, but we're a solution-based company. It's most of our people are engineers. It's kind of funny as the products all came by default, and really our core value is clean water and trying to find solutions. So it's kind of an interesting place to work. We're based in Southern Oregon, but we do sell our products nationally and internationally. We have a large presence down in New Zealand and Australia and Greece and other places. Really what we're known for is scalable solutions. So hopefully you see that today. And you've heard the word decentralized already. So I'm going to explain that a little bit and how we fit into that. And really, we are the industry leader. We were doing decentralized, I think, before we knew it was decentralized and before the name came out. So, hey, we do you also hear it called distributed. But anyways, that's what we'll talk about. And really what we've tried to focus on is passive scalable solutions. So really low energy, low operator oversight is really our theme. So what we do everything all the way from a single family home all the way up through complete community solutions. Other thing we call is one-offs, stuff that's off the grid that needs a more advanced treatment solution. And I really think we're the only company that really scales like that. So again, you'll probably see that in a second. And you heard clusters talked about, I'll explain that, and decentralized. So Prelos, it's kind of interesting. We've been doing this since the early 80s. The technologies existed since the 70s in Florida. We did not call it Prelos till about 5 years ago, I guess now, 4 years ago. So this gets a little confusing. You'll hear it referred to as STEP, septic tank effluent pump systems. At Orenco, we started to cringe when we hear the word STEP because people hear septic tank and they really get the wrong idea. So for years, we called it effluent sewer. More recently, we call it liquid-only sewer. And that's where Prelos came to being, is it's pressurized liquid-only sewer. So that's the logic behind the name. So the concept's pretty simple, and actually everything that we do at Orenco is based on this concept, is that we're going to intercept the flow basically at the source, and we're going to do, unfortunately, here's where the name septic tank comes into place. We do what a septic tank does. We just do it in a little more robust fashion. Is that if we intercept that flow and we keep the wastewater there for long enough, we get this free primary treatment that occurs. Is solids are going to settle to the bottom of the tank, scum's going to go to the top, and then we take the wastewater from the middle and take it somewhere else. And we can provide that treatment local to that tank. We can provide that treatment in a cluster at a community system. We can send it to a centralized plant. We can do all kinds of stuff with it because without solids in it, it's easier to treat and it's easier to move. So when we put it in a collection system, what you'll see here is in this example, you'll see it's discharging from this unit at the property and going out to a small diameter pressure main. And when we try to apply this in real world, this is the biggest factor. When you think about wastewater treatment, most people are familiar with lift stations and gravity sewer and deep pipes and manholes. Typically, this pipe is a 2-inch diameter pipe and shallow bury. And when we get asked, well, how deep is it? Usually we put it about 3 feet deep just to protect it. But the reality is in Hawaii, that's probably not even practical. So we can shallow it up, and if we need to, we can armor it. So really, reality is if you're in rock and you just want to put a foot down, you put it a foot down and probably armor it with some concrete and you're good to go. The other thing that's really interesting about this is because the solids are at the source, this behaves like a water main. That means that we can float in any direction. We can flow at huge distances, and we have systems going 10 miles to an existing treatment plant. It sounds a little oddball, but the service line, if we had to go up walls and along walls, we can do that. Again, there's no solids to settle and collect anywhere. So this is the power of this. And we joke about, we actually have one of our slogans, the power of Prelos. It's because we don't have solids to move. And it just makes it really easy. We can have treatment. I can have treatment behind the fence there in that location. I could have another treatment plant five miles down the road, and they can be interconnected. And I can pull off and reuse it there. I can go the other direction if I need to for part of it. It's kind of cool. The other thing that's kind of interesting about the Prelos unit, you can see down at the bottom there, that's a project that we just are wrapping up in the Black Belt of Alabama. Kind of impressive when you see all the units there, so I like to use that picture. But what on the left is a shipment going down to Australia, or actually probably New Zealand. Units about, to give a scale, it's about 7.5 feet, about 6 feet high, and then there's a riser on top of that brings up to grade. The picture in the right-hand corner shows what it looks like after it's installed. And really the concept would be is where there's a cesspool, we would install this next to the cesspool. And like I said, that discharge line from there, if it has to go up a wall and along a wall, it can. And basically manifold them all together and take them somewhere off property to treat. So we're talking about, the difficulty sometimes of disposing on property. You don't have space to do a drain field. You may be too close to the ocean. Well, this thing's pretty powerful. We can move it miles from the ocean if we have to, if that makes sense. The other thing is kind of slick. Obviously, rock will be a little challenging, but if you haven't seen directional boring, I describe it as basically boring a well horizontally. You can steer it up, down, around. What's neat about that is we can avoid soil disturbance too. So another added benefit of this type of approach. On the treatment side, so this is where the decentralized comes in. And to get used to our verbiage, we refer to these as pods. And it's all modular, meaning that we add modules as we need them. So we build capacity. You know, we can make a first phase of people we want to connect, or houses we want to connect. And then we can add as many pods as we need to get to whatever capacity over time. So this is a simple one. These are 2,500 gallon pods. A bigger version is a 7,500 gallon pods. And the key here is simplicity again. It's a very passive, natural process, kind of built on the concept of a sand filter. All it has is pumps. There's no headworks. There's no open tanks. It can be built above ground. And again, you can see the concept that we have as many pods as we need to get to our capacity in that upper right-hand side. And here's just some examples of what finished treatment plants go. So you can see on the bottom, that one's down at that's down in a resort, down the Caribbean somewhere. You can see it's completely above ground. The one in the top right is a school. So you can see various types of insulation. They're all the same thing, just accommodating to whatever's needed. So here's the decentralized concept. So we're collecting clusters of homes, and in this case, we can see a school there. And you can see there's a treatment plant over the right-hand side. So this is kind of the beauty of this system, is that to put in small diameter 2-inch lines, even in Hawaiian dollars, is much cheaper than putting in big pipes. And I know there was numbers floated around of $100,000, $300,000 to put in conventional sewers. Well, a 2-inch pipe costs about, $3, $4 a foot, and plus whatever the cost is to install it. Still big numbers. I saw numbers of $100 to directional bore, $120 to directional bore, but nonetheless, a lot cheaper than conventional types. The nice thing too is that unit that I talked about, the Prellis unit, that's a deferred cost till you actually connect somebody. So you can plan these, you phase them a little differently. You can take hotspots offline first, if you know that there's a lot of cesspools, and maybe not take other areas off service. The other thing is you can also bring in on-site systems in this that mirror the same technology. So if it doesn't make sense to run lines now, you can do that approach later and then run lines later. If I want to eventually tie in other treatments, I might have one on the lower side. I can do that. I can add more homes and add another decentralized plant. So there's this decentralized or distributed approach. So we went out to Mililea yesterday. So this is kind of an interesting system for us. And I will say that it's really been interesting going around the various communities, because I said we're a solutions company. So every time we look at something, we really see the challenge in it. And obviously the things that jump out at you there is the topography. It's 1,000 feet from bottom to top. Obviously the right-of-ways are pretty tight. The other thing that really striking is that the build-out density is relatively low and spread out. Then you start thinking, well, where do I put treatment? Should it be at the bottom of the hill? Disposal, you run downhill, you're getting close to the ocean. As we were driving out, we noticed that there was a lot of agriculture actually at the top. And we were kind of going, this may make sense to bring it up the hill and use it as a, if the ag industry can use it up there and put it on some trees, maybe that makes some sense. So the big takeaway here is, well, what does this look like? So it's about 915 lots, 250 existing dwellings. As I said, it's got some challenges with it. So what does this look like? So again, usually the concept is you just have one trunk line that runs down the middle of it, and all those blue lines become small diameter 2-inch flexion mains. The neat thing is from there, it's all flexibility. If there's roads in there and you can see them and only have 1 or 2 homes, we may not want to run that line right away. You can actually defer that. If you want to put the treatment plant at the bottom, hydraulically, we can do that, and it would actually be mostly gravity at the bottom. We're also toying with the concept, maybe we want to go uphill and actually have distributed treatment plants going up the hill. We talked about, fire protection. We could actually stagger tanks going up the hill instead of just disposing of the treated water, put it into tanks so that there's actually a supply there for fire protection at various points going up the hill. And then the eventuality that anything doesn't land in the tanks ends up at the ag industry at the top of the hill. And the reason I say all this is that it really is a tool in a toolbox. As creative as you can get from the engineering side, and you start deciding, well, what do I want to see in this project? You can start to actually see this as a tool where you can actually accommodate those concepts. So just to kind of frame costs, and I hate giving out costs, but I do this just in the fact that when you start thinking, well, this is, to me, is one of those things that gets as challenging as it gets. and we've always kind of championed this at Aramco, is like the first thing, well, just get the collection lines in, you know, and you're going to get past these really massive numbers, get it in, because those on-site units, that's where you have a lot of flexibility. If you want to accommodate, you know, I always throw out there, USDA block grants. Well, you can use that money to actually connect homes, and it's actually accommodating to low income. And the big takeaway there is, at least you make sewer available. We call it an availability position, and then you start to connect people, and you start thinking about creative ways to do that. And people can use home equity, you know, other mechanisms made to make that connection. But the point is that in the element of time, and I was looking at a study recently where it's like I saw this big pipe and upgrades to treatment plants planned. And it was like, I looked at it and went, well, you're not going to take the first cesspool offline for 10 years. With a strategy like this, you start putting in those collection lines. Cool thing is you can start, you know, once you find money, 2.5 million, you can actually start taking cesspools off immediately and shorten that 10 years down to 6 months, if that makes sense. On the treatment side, you know, we're talking about decentralized treatment. If it makes sense to put a more advanced system at the bottom of the hill, then that's in play too, because these systems will actually benefit other treatment processes as well, because you already have primary treatment. So, somebody had asked earlier about case studies and everything. If you want to write down this website, there is a ton of information there, case studies from all over the country, all over the world, on projects that aren't exactly like this one, but it gives you an idea of, again, of that concept of a tool in the toolbox and what you can do. And with that, I'll wrap things up. And I know I talk fast because I was worried I was going to get in trouble, but all right.
We're very excited after going to Middle E and actually like really starting to go to that next step. We got a grant to do a preliminary engineering report. Heather Kimball, the chair of the county council, was there and really thinks that this could be, you know, a great model. So, who's paying for the
Paying for it?
Yeah.
Question is, who's paying for it?
So we got a grant. Sorry, the question is who's paying for this? And it's open for bid. It's an open check right now. So if anybody wants to chip in, we're taking donations. Right now, for the preliminary engineering report, we just got a grant from Dig Deep to do that. And then we applied for another grant to begin the process and all the data collecting that Erica knows at Coral so well for doing the preliminary work for the EIS. And so the community outreach, the fiscal impact statements and things like that. So hopefully we will get that grant and then we will pay the whole system. That is something that we're looking into. You know, it's going to be much faster if we do it privately. And there's so much to protect with the new community-based subsistence fishing area and all the coral reefs. So we're hoping that we can get private funding and move a lot faster. They have an HOA already established, so we could do it, set up a special improvement district. Otherwise, the county might step in to try to do that funding for it, but that'll be a longer process. And so the urgency that you have to balance with a lot of these things is the coral reefs, you know, is at stake. Like in Puako, you know, it's like we need to act now because it's down to, you know, 8% coral reef cover, 7%. And so it's like we cannot wait any longer. So yeah, Eric.
What's any ownership models or how you're
Sure. Well, so at Aramco, so the question is, as far as ownership models, so at Aramco, we promote centralized ownership and maintenance. What that means is that we're a big proponent that when that system goes in from the Prelos unit out, that it is usually publicly owned or owned by a utility and maintained by a utility. And we, that's my 15-minute. I didn't know it would go off an alarm. And the reason being is you start throwing the attribute of sustainability on this. I've been doing this for 30 years. I do not believe that a private ownership model is sustainable. The reason I'm saying that is it's not like a fridge. It's not like you phone the repair person down the road. It is something that somebody should be specially trained in doing the right thing. And then when parts are replaced, they're replaced with the right parts and not just something that was bought at Home Depot. And so we have always promoted that model of basically you get a monthly bill, a utility bill, just like you do now if you're on water and wastewater, and that cost covers the cost of maintenance.
But from no leak.
Yeah, so it could be like a hybrid model to fund it, to start it, but then, transferring it to the county. Because long-term for operation and maintenance and just to sustain systems, yeah, what Mike is saying, it's better to have a county and a government.
So, and to kind of frame, well, what does that maintenance look like? So we recommend preventive maintenance visit every 3 to 5 years. Some of our biggest users are pushing that out to 6 to 8 years without seeing any really discernible difference in the amount of reactive maintenance. And there's always this relationship between reactive and preventive maintenance, just like your car. If you don't change the oil, you're gonna have more car problems than if you do maintain the oil. With the 3 to 5 year preventive maintenance, we usually see about a 10 to 12 year interval between what we call a reactive call out. So it's not really discernible to the homeowner. It's a long time between any events happening.
That's specific to collect.
Yeah, specific to collection. So that's a great question. So, because we always, people make the comparison to the septic tank if they have that, and they go, well, I got to pump my septic tank every 3 to 5 years. Well, that's usually because that's mandated by a health department. And what happens is the health department has to mandate pump outs based on the worst case scenario. So that could be 6, 7, 8 people in a home, and they don't want to ever get to that point where solids would get into a drain field. So again, in the context that these are professionally managed systems, that 3 to 5 year check-in, when you go and check the system, you actually measure the sludge and scum. And the reason you do that is we want to keep the sludge there absolutely as long as we can. So it ends up being a 10 to 12 year pump out interval on average. And if you want to push that out even further, you can invest in a little bit bigger tank, and it's going to push that interval even further out.
What's the geology like here?
Well, it certainly looked like lava rock throughout most of it. As you got up halfway up the hill, there was more soil as you moved up the hill.
Would that affect the way you install a system?
Well, it would, yeah. So directional boring may not play out very well there. So you'd be doing a small trench in some way, whether it's a cutting blade with diamonds on it or something. But again, in that case, we're not looking to go 3 feet deep. We'd just be looking to get deep enough to put a pipe in.
All right, let's give a big round of applause. Thank you, Mike. Mike is such an expert in this, and here's his contact info. And feel free, if any of you guys for your communities that you represent, we can always set up a meeting with them. And they've been just tremendous in actually just being available to discuss very specific communities. So next, we're going to talk about Cloacina, and I don't want to take away from, this is probably your punchline, so I won't mention anything about Greek mythology right now, but there's a Greek mythology tie, so I'll just let that be a brain teaser for you now. This is a company, this is one of our newer partners, and again, family-owned company based in San Luis Obispo in California. Very small footprint wastewater reuse, doing MBR plants that are just all our models, we want them to be able to be shipped out here in a container. Anytime you have to do putting them in the ground and the engineering that takes, and the expense for the OpEx and the CapEx is just enormous. These can be shipped out on a concrete pad laid down. That's what we're really, pushing for. And they're stainless steel, and we need that in Hawaii. So this has been a company that, we've been interested for a year and a half. And we finally set up this partnership because we believe in this model for decentralized places, around Hawaii that are not going to ever be sewered, by the city and counties, and that can offer a high level of treatment, and we can reuse the water. And we have a very exciting case study to share after this about what we're doing in Maalaea. So please welcome, if you could, our guest speaker today, Chris Nally. So, just to be clear, I'm between these people and drinks and appetizing. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's make sure. Okay.
So as Stuart said, we're a family-owned business. We started in the operations and maintenance world. I'm a licensed wastewater operator, have been for 30 years. My family has, I've been chief plant operator of hundreds of systems in a variety of environments, installations from very small to entire cities. I've operated as a consulting operator to solve failing systems or step in to train and support staffing. So we started and continue to operate fluid resource management. Flowsina is our manufacturing arm. We've grown very quickly in the last 10 years. We've taken kind of an old methodology and package treatment systems on site, and we've brought them into, we've invested many dollars of our own into developing a municipal grade pre-engineered system where we can do flows between 25,000 gallons a day and 500,000 gallons a day. I saw that yawn, but so now we're moving also into the rental market, which we're seeing as very important because there's a lot of systems that are failing and they can't get to the solutions quickly. So we're developing a rental division to either bridge a gap on a failing system or for emergency response, like for fires and floods and earthquakes, etc. So that's new to our product line, and we'll be shipping out or delivering the first units in the Q1. The benefits of what we're doing are, well, let me go back here real quick. Benefits of what we're doing are the speed or project timeline, the costs associated with building these larger decentralized systems, and the liability associated or the risk associated with these types of projects. So we are doing pre-engineered, pre-validated systems. It's a very, we can do for example, we could deliver a 500,000 gallon per day system within a year on average right now. And that's only limited to our supply chains. I don't know what everyone else is seeing, but electrical panels, electrical equipment, it's a very slow process right now. But basically what we do is we take the head scratching part of the job. We've pre-engineered it. We're following the metal building industry's model where you tell us where you're at. We know what the codes are, what the requirements are. We've already built we've already done the biological design, and then we can tweak it and customize it for the individual locations, depending on the loading, the population, the effluent, or the reuse goals for the project. But the bulk of the system, the process engineering, electrical controls, structural, that's all been done ahead of time. So it is allowing us to work with smaller civil firms because they may not have a process team or they may not have a structural team. We're doing that, so they're able to focus on what they're doing in their local regions related to permitting, site planning, finding the money for their client, program management, things like that. But we're doing the heavy lifting on the project design. And from the O&M standpoint, that's really, we didn't invent anything here. There's no proprietary widget. We just took tried and true technology and put it into a box that operators built. So we built it from the standpoint of long-term O&M. I'd like to take just a brief minute and just talk about what a membrane bioreactor is. After listening today, I realized I should have included that, but a membrane bioreactor is nothing more than an activated sludge plant, meaning that we grow these biology that everyone spoke about in a liquid basin where we're managing a population of organisms to consume or oxidize organic material. And those organisms, different types of organisms, thrive in different environments, whether you are providing them with air or you're taking that air away. And by recirculating these organisms and feeding them through these different environments, we start with removing the ammonia and the organic material, and then we are converting the nitrogen and denitrifying the system. So we're able to do all of that in one of these processes. The real benefit of an MBR is that we don't use gravity or Mother Nature to separate the solids from the liquid. We are using a mechanical device, a perforated material, typically, like 0.04 nanometers in inside. So it allows us to pull the clean water right out of the dirty water, which means we can have a much larger population of organisms in a very small footprint. And that's the benefit of an MBR. Low power, low footprint, high quality effluent, and the ability to remotely evaluate the system, as opposed to a gravity or older school system. The second benefit is obviously pricing. We are performing everything in our shop. We're building these units, we assemble them, we test them, we break them down and ship them out. So that means less time on site, less dirt work. They're not burying systems. There's less permitting costs. If it's a government institution, we're not talking about prevailing wage projects. We're cutting back on that, labor shortages, and just the ability to get the process through. Much more streamlined and cleaner approach to a project. And it's not, again, we didn't invent anything. We've created a bigger mousetrap that allows us to approach larger projects. As I said, we're now doing projects like this up to 2 million gallons a day. So we're replacing entire cities' infrastructure with these pre-engineered solutions. So in the last 2 months, we've been awarded, I think, 3 or 4 projects over 250,000 gallons a day, and some as large as 2 million gallons a day. So obviously our guess was correct that there was a need for this type of a product, and we're really the only people currently working in this market space as we do it. So we can be much cleaner and clearer about the scope and what's required. And we are able to give an accurate price, where right now, if a project's being site designed or site built, they're going to give you an engineer's estimate, and that estimate could be as far off as 60 to 70% by the time you get to a set of 30% plans, and you can actually start to get bids on the project and then find out how far off the estimates were. Through this process, we're able to give accurate pricing from day one. And we tie the cost to the consumer price index. We build out a stainless steel, we give you a price, we associate it with the price of nickel. You come back 2 years, you want to buy it, we just reevaluate where the price of nickel is. And those are really the only escalations that we're looking at. The last part is liability. When these larger projects are engineered, you've got the first engineer comes on and evaluates technology. The technology is selected. They write an RFP. They bring a second engineering team on. They do the design for that project. It goes out for RFP for construction, RFP for vendors. You've just got hundreds of different individuals on the project. In this approach, it's single point of liability. My company is on the hook for structural, process guarantees, electrical, controls, and all equipment warranties. So we like to, the operator can go right to our SCADA control panel built into the system, and they can submit a ticket directly to our team if they're having a problem with anything on the system. We do, as I said, everything in-house. So we build all the tanks, do all the structural analysis, do all the upfit internally, all the programming, everything is done by us. So we're in complete control of these systems, and we do about 1 a month. So right now we're doing 12 to 15 of these units a month of different sizes and types. So we have a very fast feedback loop. If something is working better, we can take that in, we send it to our design committee, they evaluate it, and we may roll it into the next iteration of the product. So as was mentioned, we're a family-owned company. There's about 10 of us working there, and then we have another 100 or so employees that work with us that we treat and consider family. And so there's a lot of arguing and fighting about how we move forward, but the best idea prevails within our organization, and it's a lot of fun to be where we're at today. But we are able to take, people bring something in from an article or a journal, we can evaluate it to see if it has value within what we're doing. Real quickly through our products, we have MEMPAC X, which is it stands for external, meaning we can provide a small unit that can be expanded up to 40,000 gallons a day. That's typically small development shopping centers, high strength, RV parks and resorts. Our MEMPAC M is our municipal model. As I said, we can go from 25,000 to 1 million gallons a day in a pre-engineered train. We can use multiple trains to go larger. That's for small communities, industrial parks, military bases. We're doing resorts, prisons, etc. We also do industrial work. We can do wineries, breweries, food producers, high strength environments like BODs in the 10 to 12,000 range. We actually started primarily in the wine industry. We've got about 40 installs in wineries of different sizes, because winery waste is a mess. We have the MMPAC R. This is the new rental unit that we're producing now. So you can see it's essentially a single axle, fixed axle frac tank that you see on the side of the road for sediment removal. We've worked with that manufacturer and our engineering team to develop that's a 30,000 gallon per day membrane bioreactor. So you can meet reuse quality out of that unit. So that's what we're most likely going to be looking for opportunities over here, just because there's need, but we know the process is going to be substantial, and we need to solve a solution ahead of time, and put something in there that doesn't take an enormous capital outlay to get a solution. It would be relatively affordable to get it here and get it up and running. We're looking at about maybe 35,000 a month for that. That's the current estimate about where we're going to land, depending on length of contract. And we're already into phase 2 of this design, which is a multi-train setup that we hope to get to 150,000 gallons a day, where we can solve some larger problems. Okay, so we're working with. You want to talk about this?
Maybe I'll talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
But stay here. We've been working with the Malaya Village Association for about 3 years now, and this is where you're getting to. This is extremely timely, tragically timely, in that there are 10 condos and there's a commercial center there. They're all on injection wells. I was part of, when I was at Surfrider, part of the Maui, the Lahaina injection wells case. That case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the whole time we were saying we don't want to go to court. There were like 4 environmental organizations, and we said we just want to sell. We just want you to reuse the treated wastewater instead of putting them in injection wells, which we've documented evidence it's doing damage to the corals and to the nearshore ecosystem. Let's reuse the water. And one of our biggest things that we suggested was use it for fire prevention. Have that treated wastewater up there to have because that whole area is so dry. There's so much dry, guinea grass and all kinds of fuel, that we were like, let's reuse this. And so tragically they did not. But moving forward, for part of this plan that we've been doing in Malaya from the start 3 years ago, we were saying, let's do a model, let's do a system that can be a model for the rest of Hawaii. Decentralized packaged treatment plants that can be shipped in like the MBR, stainless steel. And then we have another partner, Biomass Controls, that worked with the Gates Foundation, and you could ship those out there and you could treat all the waste on site, the solids. Now that's revolutionary. That has not been really done before. Biosolids have been done, but biochar production has not on this kind of scale. There's so much trucking involved in taking sludge to landfills where it's full still of all kinds of contaminants of emerging concern, PFAS, PFOS, and pharmaceuticals, and they often leach into the ground. And our landfills are full already. So we wanted to combine this to where we recycle 100% of the wastewater and the sludge on site. The biochar makes an excellent soil amendment, and we are going to create this green belt. This would be also serve as fire break, a windbreak, and a way to stop sedimentation. And so this has, in the last 6 weeks since the Lahaina fires, taken on, you can imagine, incredible relevance. Is that we could do this on all the leeward dry sides of the island, where we could put in the system and have everything that's shipped in, pre-engineered and ready to go, and then use that water, that treated water, and you could put it in cisterns that you just have it for fire prevention, or you could do a green belt model like this. And we've got Mahipono that already donated the land, 2 acres
for the treatment facilities itself and 8 acres of this green belt, using natives, ulu trees to absorb that water. So it's a really exciting project, but we are running behind, but I realized we didn't get a chance to do Q&A. So let's do some brief Q&A with Chris. Who'd like to start us off?
So PDR is amazing waste, water quality, but often triggers the Class A operator license. Look at your transmit first. Does your system also include SCADA monitoring so they can remotely monitor? I'm guessing with Hawaii and everywhere else, hard to find the operators.
Right, that's a great question. Yes, once you get into this advanced treatment, and then it's a flow based typically, but usually you're at a grade 3 or C operator, depending on where you're at. Yes, it's completely. So they can visualize. It's completely remote, or viewable remotely. We have a team that's set up to support the operators, and then we also have a third-party cloud-based system. It's during the warranty period where we are telling the operators every day, log in and do these things. Put your sample results in here. If anything's out of range, it'll notify us so that we can have a team meeting. But our company, for the first year, we start out with weekly meetings with the O&M staff, and then we go to monthly meetings for the remainder of the warranty. And then they can continue to choose to, engage with us to continue that service. Because, yeah, I think there's a study out of the University of North Carolina that says that over 60% of the water and wastewater operations industry is my age or older, and that's 53 years old. So that means they're calling it the silver tsunami. Okay? We're going to lose an enormous workforce, and so that's the whole point of this, workforce for water, and that's why I love being part of it, because I haven't seen this anywhere else in the country where they're forward thinking, trying to get people into this industry, because it's going to be bad, real bad.
There's another question over here. Someone had. I can't. Mm-hmm. So we're looking, so they're asking what the effluent quality is out of the rental unit? Sure. So we're using it for several things. One, we have clients that they're too far gone, and the period between the repair or the improvement is too long. So we could we've done this, we piloted this with other systems. We can bring in a rental to kind of bridge the gap while they are improving it. So especially if it's an older system, we can run a side stream through the MBR and get non-detects on BOD and suspendeds and less than 10 on nitrogen, and blend it with the effluent to get them back into compliance. The other possible uses are longer term maintenance and repair. So we're bypassing during a larger maintenance program so they stay in compliance. And then emergency response, where they would pump to our system, and then we would dispose of it into their standard or an on-site disposal. But pre-disinfection, we're going to be Title 22. Well, it could, that would just depend on the permit, but yeah, it is reuse quality water, but that system doesn't include disinfection. So we would have to we could probably provide a UV skid if that were an issue, or even a chlorine contact chamber. Thank you.
One final question. Anybody?
Everybody, come on. That's NBR.
I'm starting to think about things.
Yeah, I knew it. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Oh, yes, sir.
How quickly can you start up a unit on the rental?
Can we start it up? Well, we're building them now. Once it's on site, depending on where you get the seed sludge from, it should. How fast can I start up the unit? So once you get if you get seed sludge, it's online in hours. If you have to build the biology, it could take up to 2 weeks. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Anybody looking at the chat? There's a couple of questions in there.
Chris is also got a stand-up comedy special. He's very good on his feet, as all our presenters are. So we want to thank you guys for being just so good on your feet. We want to introduce very briefly our newest partners, Leapfrog Design. And Adam, if you can raise your hand. Adam is here. He's flown in from Oregon. This is a plant-powered ecological treatment system that is modular, and it uses the plants and microbes to clean gray water for reuse and use for flushing and irrigation. It could also work with alongside incineration toilets like our Cinderella toilets. And just so you guys know, we introduced the Cinderella toilet first west of the Mississippi, and there are 50 units across Hawaii now. So it's been fascinating to see just the uptake in Hawaii of these different models. People are really you can tell there's a hunger for them. They're also working with, and this is exciting, they've got a grant to do Blackwater the cleaning version coming in 2024. And that is without the feces, right? And we're calling that what now? Dark gray water. Yes, it's kind of a new category. And so it offers us a lot of kind of opportunities, and it's beautiful. It's very aesthetically pleasing. And so, Leapfrog does these designs, plant-powered gray water reuse systems. And we're going to be trying to set up a pilot project in Hawaii, which is very exciting. Nature-based solutions, and they're efficient, affordable, beautiful, and odorless. And you can see some of these systems, they really are designed and very aesthetic to be part of the architecture. And this is something that we did. We worked with CNA and got approval to do this hybrid system. We got a WAI innovation grant. And we were able to replace all, this was a house that was on a cesspool. We replaced all the toilets with Cinderella. They're waterless, and there's only ash is the only thing. You have ash in a tray that you empty into a garbage can. And then we did gray water recycling for all the rest of it. But it was a little bit difficult because it was like sizing, digging up the yard. What we're hoping is if we compare this Cinderella toilet with Leapfrog, you have an aesthetic design, and all the gray water can be recycled clean. They're monitored so they can do these remotely. And then we can reuse that water, get it back, use it for irrigation, and all kinds of things. So it's really exciting. So please, again, raise your hand, Adam. Talk to Adam tonight. They just joined with us, and we're just introducing them. So we're looking for pilot projects in Hawaii. This is our newest, well, not even partner to be. And Lixil is formerly was American Standard. So you've seen their toilets everywhere across the world. It was bought by Lixil, and their purpose is to make better homes a reality for everyone everywhere. And their goal is to improve sanitation for 100 million people around the world. So they're working, someone mentioned earlier, on the projects in Alabama. And so they're donating water efficiency equipment and things. And so they came with us to Milili'i. I'm sorry, if you could raise your hands, Troy and Andrea, you can talk to them as well. And really can help us with some of these projects and helping, let's reduce the flow that's going into them. Water efficiency can make a huge deal. So we really appreciate them working with us to provide the sanitation solutions that they're doing around the world, and working very community driven. They're just they're data driven. They want to know everything about Hawaii. And I got to meet Andrea at the Gates Foundation Reinvented Toilet Expo, and have developed these kind of long-term relationships with people I met there. So welcome to our new partners. Let's give each of them a round of applause. And you have more than a 15-minute break. You have cocktails and food waiting for you upstairs. We are going to, as we set up, unless there are any updates, we are going to go upstairs. It's on the 7th floor. There's a lanai. It oversees all of Hawaii. It's outdoors. It's gorgeous. We've got amazing food. And so we'll have music up there, but how many people got raffle tickets and talked to the providers? Okay, they're amazing Patagonia prizes, so please take a little more time. Guys, if you can just go to your rooms for 5 minutes. They'll also have the tables upstairs. So just go and talk to them. You'll get a raffle ticket, and we'll do that and have some final announcements at about 6:15. So mahalo, everyone.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Good better every year.
And thank you everyone online for joining us. We really appreciate it. We wish you could be here in person to join us at this party and this reception. But please feel free to follow up with us if you have any questions or comments. It's info@vicleanwater.org, and we really appreciate your support and your engagement. And we look forward to seeing more of you. Aloha. Mahalo.